All right, guys, what we're going to do today is just do a very quick look at the Byzantine Empire and what is known as Eastern Orthodox Christianity. It's very similar to Roman Catholicism, but not quite. In third period, you're going to hear about a guy named Justinian tomorrow, and all this comes under the reign of the Byzantine Empire, who very similarly to an Islamic caliph is head of both the church and the state. So they are a political and a religious leader. And when you control the religion, you control the hearts and the minds of the people, it makes governing very easy. But there is a lot of tension between the Western Christian Church, the Roman Catholic Church, the Byzantine Emperor and their version of Christianity, which is slightly different, and then the growing expanse of the Islamic Empire. All of these things are happening at the same time. And small, tiny differences in religion can cause massive problems. For instance, the Eastern Orthodox Church will differ slightly from their Western European cousins in 6 or 7 different ways. Number one is what we already said, church leadership. The Byzantine emperor was the head of the church. So as such, he controls church affairs. He dictates to the church what they are going to do, what they are going to say, even how they are going to educate young students within the empire. Now, the emperor has got a lot of things to do, so he can't oversee the church continually because he's got the entire government to run. So he appointed an assistant known as a patriarch. The patriarch of Constantinople was the head of the church, like the Pope was for the Roman Catholic Church, or the Archbishop of Canterbury, or the current Queen is for the Church of England. So the patriarch is like a cardinal or an archbishop. They are subservient to the emperor. They are part of the emperor's bureaucracy, right? There's the Secretary of Defense, there's the Secretary of State, and there's the Secretary of Religion. The patriarch was the Secretary of Religion, to build in some of your Matt North civics and economics there. Just as a cardinal or an archbishop was subservient to the Roman Catholic Pope, these guys, while they run the church, they take their orders from the emperor. That's difference number one. Difference number two, in Western Europe, the Pope controlled the lives of all the Christians. It was the Pope who interpreted Christian canon law. Well, in the Eastern Orthodox Church, they said that this is the opposite. The Byzantine Church and the church teachings govern over its believers, not one single person, not even the emperor. The church controlled Christians. Roman Catholics believes the Pope was in charge of all of them. Again, it's not a real big difference, but it's just enough. Number three, Eastern Orthodox priests could get married and have families, but Eastern Orthodox monks could not. In the Roman Catholic world, priests, monks, and bishops were all off limits to getting married. Their job was to be married to the church. They couldn't get married and have families. Well, in the Eastern Orthodox world, village priests and town priests could get married and have families. And here is a small one. If you go to a church service, Roman Catholics could not use leavened bread for communion. Most likely this comes out of the Judaic influence in Israel, where your communion, your body of Christ, is non-leavened bread. Well, over in the Eastern Orthodox, they're like, well, who cares? All right, we're going to use it as symbolic during the church service. You can use leavened bread. Not a big deal, but to some, it really is. Number 5, and perhaps the biggest difference, was in the use of icons. Icons were holy images, statues, paintings, even stained glass images of Jesus on the cross or Mary and Joseph. You go to a Roman Catholic church, up by the altar, they will have a statue of Mary and Joseph. And again, like, ancient China ancestor worship, you can't pray for yourself 24 hours a day. So if you need someone to pray for you, ask Jesus' mom. Ask Mary to do it. Well, a lot of people interpreted that as if you weren't worshiping God, but instead you were worshiping the statue or the Jesus on the cross. That's not how it was intended, but it was how it was interpreted. And the Byzantine Emperor, a guy named Leo III, Leo, Roman numeral 111, outlawed the practice of using religious icons. Many of them had to be torn down and destroyed. Remember the big fresco I told you about in the Ben the Bucket story? All of these things were destroyed, and it makes a lot of people very angry. So the Roman Catholic Pope actually excommunicated the Byzantine Emperor Leo III over this. And this causes much anger and venom on both sides, and it is one of the key components that led to the Great Schism in 1054, a permanent splitting between the Western Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church. And so the split, and then later on we'll get Protestant churches, Methodist, Episcopalian, Baptist. They all have the same core belief, just the church service is practiced differently, but it is unlike the Eastern world at all. So I'll explain more of that when we get to the European Middle Ages. So when that was done, the Patriarch of Constantinople said, well, if you're going to excommunicate me, I'm going to excommunicate you. And so the Pope was excommunicated from the Eastern Orthodox Church, and the Byzantine Emperor was excommunicated from the Roman Catholic Church. And so when this happens, the Great Schism of 1054 the conflict between the Byzantine Emperor and the popes will start the long, slow collapse of the Byzantine Empire. The empire was struggling anyway. It had, after Justinian, it had some really weak emperors. Again, they were exhausting their treasury with not only fighting in Western Europe, they were also battling the Sassanid Empire of Persia in Asia. And while they were fighting in the West and dealing with the East, there was the growing movement of Islam to their south. So for centuries, after their great golden age where they got out to this big head start, they will fall into nearly centuries of constant and continual conflict. So it got so bad in 1090 that the Byzantine Emperor had to swallow his pride and ask the Roman Catholic Pope Urban II for some assistance in the Crusades. That is our story for tomorrow. Tell me that you want to start in the Crusades and we'll get this thing done. Move on to the Vikings in Kiev and Russia, and then head back to China with the Sui, Tang, and Song dynasties. Have a good night, guys.